Welcome back, Husker fans, to another episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Herd at Sports podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we get salty. I am your host, Ken.
And I am your host, Scott.
That's right. This is the show where family and fandom collide to bring you, hopefully, an entertaining podcast about your favorite team and ours, the Huskers. And tonight we are going to do what we did last year, take a look at the schedule and pick the games based on a quote-unquote realistic point of view, and then also pick those games from a very Rhule-Aid laden point of view. Like we've been guzzling it all day, and these are the scores we think are going to happen after being filled up with too much Rhule-Aid. But between the realistic picks and the Rhule-Aid picks, please stay tuned, because halfway through the show we have a really big announcement. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun that you can participate in with us. So stay tuned for that. And then also don't miss the video at the end of the show. Yeah, it's important, like legendary almost, if you catch my drift, Scott. So there we go. It has something to do with our next show. So there you go. Anyway, you can tell I absolutely did not practice doing an intro today, Scott. I'm just kind of all over the place. So, but that's okay.
It's okay. We're kind of getting into a new chapter of life. We're getting to the 2024 season. Things have changed, life has evolved, and we've got an exciting kind of I feel like we're entering a new chapter of being Husker fans, as well as podcasting, as well as everything. Like everything just seems to be changing, and only for the better. So it's kind of hard to keep up with those things sometimes.
Yeah, and we've added a Husker fan to the Gen Red clan as well. Yeah, I mean, we could say, like our old school intro, 3 generations, one passion. Yeah. This is Generation Red. So why don't you talk about that little feller?
Yes. So my son was born on the 21st of May at 11:27 p.m. And yeah, so that's kind of, I'm just extremely thankful to be a dad. It's been a long time coming. Been married to my wife for almost 4 years now. And this kind of just completely catapults us into a whole new world of living. And I just can't wait to raise him with the very correct model of being a Husker fan. And yeah, just kind of, really basically, I don't care as long as he is really, really good at golf. If he can become a PGA pro,
we'd all be set. That would be pretty awesome for sure.
Yeah, we're just excited. We're just tired though, as everybody always talks about, the lack of sleep. Luckily, I mean, I get better sleep than my wife does because she's the one who provides the food, and I provide whatever I can. I don't know if she needs me, she needs me. If she doesn't, she doesn't. But yeah, for the most part, she takes care of the little kiddo at night, and I make sure that I take care of her. And
that's pretty awesome. I tell you what, meeting him the first time, he's so quiet. I mean, even when he cried the other day when we were at your house because he was poopy or whatever, it was still kind of mellow. I can imagine he gets louder, but the times I've heard him fussing, he doesn't sound all that loud. So
no, not yet. Not yet. He's cutie. He's gassy though. He's a very gassy baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a little bit. So, just a few changes around here. There may be a chance that he could end up getting pretty good at golf.
There's a possibility.
He could, because he's going to at least have a facility that he can use. Now, where did I put it? I downloaded it. Dang it. It didn't go in. There it is.
Thanks, Moonbot.
Thanks, Moonbot.
Really
Good to see you, buddy.
Welcome to the stream. As always, you're a champ.
Yep. What's up, buddy? He was on the show that I did this last week. I was on one of the channels for the Voice of College Football, which I've always liked Mark Rogers stuff whenever I've happened to catch it on YouTube. And he got Justin his own channel to do specifically Nebraska football. He invited us on. Scott, of course, was still needing rest, so he decided to forego being on the show, but looks like there'll be a return visit sometime soon, as well as Justin maybe ending up in this studio here sometime in the near future, like, I don't know, around Colorado game, maybe. So that's pretty awesome. That was an absolute blast of a show to do. But Teddy could become fairly good at golf because he'll have full access to this, which that was horrible. Why did I put it up as a background? I don't know, but I
Let's
did.
go. Oh no, we just can't seem to hit the right buttons. That's my bad. That was not my dad.
No, that was me. That was totally me. I need to add it as an overlay. See, that way it goes over top of the stream. Yeah, technical difficulties, folks.
That's okay.
After 2 years of using StreamYard, I'd have figured this stuff out by now. But there you go. That's the new sim, the 8x8 structure I put together. It's just golf net. Wasn't expensive. About $100 worth of blackout curtains later. And even with the lights on, you can kind of see that El Cheapo $80 projector fairly well. You can kind of see how it's jury rigged. Off of the garage door opener. So you've got to stand directly under it. I've got it set up just where you stand directly under it. That way your club path hopefully doesn't take out the projector, which would kind of suck. So anyway, we're not here. I mean, talking about Teddy, I could do that for quite a while, but most folks are probably tuning in because they want to know what we think of the upcoming season. And just as a reminder to those guys, we appreciate our Twitter viewers. God bless you guys. You're always there. Most of our viewers that watch us live watch us on Twitter, and we really appreciate it. But just as a reminder, if you want to interact with us during the show, Twitter does not send those comments that you make on the Twitter feed on through to StreamYard, which is what we use for streaming. So we're not going to see those comments until we go to the Twitter feed later. I'm usually doing post-production, and by the time I can get to the Twitter feed, it's pretty late at night, and sometimes I forget by the next day because, well, 56. The brain just doesn't work like it used to. So if you want to be a part of the conversation during the show, please switch over to our Facebook or our YouTube page and just interact with us there. And you can join Moonbot and others in the comments. Such a great bunch of people. Scott Schrader, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming over and watching us tonight. Justin's class act, a fantastic interview, and that was an absolute blast of a conversation. So Moonbot had his typical opinion, Scott, during the show about Tristan Alvano. So we won't talk about him tonight. We'll try not to trigger Moonbot. It's the poor guy. He just can't get over it. What if I don't know. I might end up mentioning Tristan Alvano. That just may be a preview for one of my picks. We'll see. Anyway, why don't we jump into the Rhule-Aid, or not the Rhule-Aid, but we'll start out with our reality picks. We go through all the games, look at them from a reality perspective, and then we'll talk about our big announcement and then move on to the Rhule-Aid ones. So there we go. First game of the year, as we know, is in Saturday, August 31st, 2024. The time has been recently announced, which is 2:30 p.m. kickoff in Memorial Stadium with the UTEP Miners. Used to be known, if I remember correctly, the Texas Western Miners, which was the first all African-American basketball team ever to win the NCAA tournament way back in the day, in case you needed to know that history. That show, that movie Glory Road, if you've ever seen it, that's what that was about. And that's UTEP before they became UTEP. So they're returning offensive production as of May 13th, 2024, as they have 44% of their production returning, which is ranked 118th nationally. Scott, how do you see this game playing out, looking at it through kind of the reality lens?
I just see it as thank God we are not starting our season against a Big Ten opponent. Like
on the road.
Like, dude, that's huge. And I mean, UTEP is just it's a tune-up game. I mean, that's basically what it's supposed to be, and that's probably what it's going to end up looking like. I think that Vegas already has the way too early line as Nebraska's favored by 28 points, 27 points, something like that. And I think that's fair. I see it as a game where it might start off either. I know it sounds stupid, but it's going to start off really slow and then it'll pick up at the end of the game and we'll get a lot of points kind of halfway through. Or it starts off really fast and then it's just dead for a very long period of the game. And then it kind of kicks back up again near the end of the game. That's the only two things I see out of this game. But yeah, I think it's going to be, it's going to be great. Not playing against a Big Ten opponent. There's less pressure. It's a great way to get off on the right foot. Cause isn't it been since when was the last season we won our season opener?
2019. It was South Alabama. I can't remember. It was kind of one of those games where you went, okay, we won, but thank God the defense kind of showed up and had some big plays because it was close. It was the Cam Jurgens snapping the ball every other snap over Adrian Martinez head game.
Yes.
So it was kind of like
I think I was at a wedding.
Most likely, yeah.
I think that's when that was. I was at a wedding. No, because I hadn't met Kelsey yet. Or yes, I did. Yes, I did because that was 2019. I met Kelsey. Then we got married in 2020. So yeah, we would have went on a wedding date.
Wedding dates. Those are always dangerous.
And I had the game on my phone and just touch away.
I've been to a wedding with your mother back in 1994 in which Nebraska was playing Pacific. You knew you were going to beat Pacific. You knew it was going to be by a bunch, but I still had a radio with a wired earbud coming up the back of my dress shirt going into my ear so I could listen to the game, and got into a lot of trouble, but I did it anyway. So, oh my goodness. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this is great that this is the very first game that Nebraska will play at home and have obviously a very, very most likely are going to win it for the first time since 2019, since Nebraska has won any kind of an opening game for the season. You go back to 2015, it was the first time Nebraska had lost an opening game at Memorial Stadium for God only knows how long, probably pre-Devaney, but and then it started becoming frequent. So here's hoping that trend turns around, and I think you think that trend turns around with your pick. So go ahead. What's your pick on this game?
So I pick it as a win, and I'm going to make just an off-the-cuff bold prediction. I think that Moonbot says, I'll put this comment up here for people to see, TD within 8 plays. I honestly think I would not be surprised if it's the first play of the game. And Dylan Raiola, it's some sort of play action. Dylan Raiola steps back and just hits a guy in a seam route just perfectly and just off to the races. Touchdown. First play of the game. That's what I'm feeling. And I see it as kind of a 41-13 victory, which I guess kind of coincides with kind of Vegas's idea of how the game's going to turn out.
Even 28 points, you got them covering.
Yep. And with the whole, it's funny that you brought up the whole Tristan Alvano thing, because I could see it being either way. Is it 41 points because we kicked 2 field goals, or is it 41 points because Tristan misses 2 field goals and an extra point just to get the bad things come in 3? So, but yeah. So 41-13 Nebraska. That's what I think is a pretty realistic score.
Let's not put that negativity out in the Huskerverse. We want
I'm trying to cancel it out here. I'm trying to jinx it in the opposite way.
Yeah. Scott Schrader says that UTEP's D-line is entirely rebuilt, and you are correct, sir. The other thing that's entirely rebuilt on UTEP is I believe they're going to be starting 4 brand new defensive backs too. So there's really not much experience on that defensive side coming back, which really has a lot to do with my pick. It's not quite as optimistic as yours, simply because I think the offense being led most likely, I'm guessing 99% likely, by a true freshman quarterback who's obviously mature beyond his years, but he hasn't had to play when real live bullets are flying. So I've got 31-10. I've got 10 points less than you do, just because I think a couple of those scoring drives that could get us into the 40s ends with a untimely turnover, or maybe a turnover on downs because we went for it on 4th and 1 and somehow UTEP figures out what we're going to do. So 31-10 is kind of how I see how I see this game going. Moonbot's kind of in your vein, if not more. He's like this. We're on the reality segment, Moonbot. So I'd be curious to see what your Rhule-Aid pick is for this game, unless that's your Rhule-Aid pick. But he has 56-13. And Patrick Joseph. Patrick, I don't know if I've seen you on the stream before. My apologies if you've been here. Thank you. Appreciate the comment. He says 27-14 Nebraska. So we got a couple of good picks there. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you participating. Let's move on to the next game. The one that, in my mind, Scott, is the game that will really set the tone for the season. While I still think Nebraska goes bowling if they happen to lose to the those evil deformed cows over there in Boulder, because they're, I'm sorry, a buffalo's just a deformed cow. It's a bull that wanted to be a bull, but its horns got turned upside down. It got fat and decided to be pissed. So that's as good as I can do. Sorry. As of May 13th, their returning offensive production is 71%, which is ranked 17th in the country, which is weird. You look at that list, right? I sent you that list of the returning offensive production. Yeah. We've got the same thing, 71%, but somehow we're ranked 20th. Okay. Maybe it's because of experience at quarterback. That's some reason they weighted it differently, even though the percentage of returning production is the same amongst, I think, 4 different teams. But anyway, Colorado Buffaloes come to Lincoln. That game was also announced as, 6:30 or 7 p.m. kick, I think.
I don't know.
That one's going to be fun. That's going to be under the lights. The place is going to be nuts. I expect. Now, Scott, see if you agree with me on this. Remember that angry, pissed off, we want to throw you through a brick wall atmosphere at Memorial Stadium when Miami rolled into town?
Yeah.
I can only imagine this being probably even more amped up.
Dude, it's going to be absolutely jazzed. It's going to be crazy. I think it's going to break. We're going to finally have a game that is loud and we actually won it.
Yeah.
Because we've had some really loud games in the last decade or so, and really the only one that we've won has been that Miami game in 2014.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about time. It took us 10 years, decades long, and it makes it even that much sweeter that it's once again against an opponent that we have a history with, especially when considering the time and an era in which Nebraska was big. And I think that this is going to be an absolutely electric game.
Oh, dude, I absolutely can't wait. I'm still looking at ticket prices, and it's like, holy smokes. People really want to go to this game, or if they're not going, they really want you to buy their ticket for a lot of money. So don't know if I'll go or not. I'm still kind of considering that offer from Tony Davis that he's going to go hang out at Cigars and watch the game there. I'm like, that kind of sounds pretty good. So anyway, what's your pick? What do you think happens?
I think no matter which way I look at this, with the context of it being a night game in Memorial Stadium, we've got a win under our belt, first win of, the Matt Rhule era, first season opener win of the Matt Rhule era. I think Nebraska wins, and I think that it's a close game. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker. I think it doesn't matter how good our defense is. It doesn't matter how good their offense is. I think it's just going to go back and forth. It's going to be an ugly game where it looks pretty terrible from both sides. And then every once in a while, there's just an open guy and it just is just a blow up play. That's what I think is going to happen. Cause I think that Colorado is a hype team. They need, they thrive with hype and they die by the hype. And so I think that they're going to actually play a pretty substantial game when the lights are beaming down on them. They've got 89,000 people screaming their heads off, probably even more. We're going to pack that stadium, 91,000 people. And I just have a feeling that it's just going to be a back and forth game and Nebraska's going to squeak it out. I can't not pick Nebraska to win. So I'm thinking Nebraska wins 35-14 or 35-28.
I'm sorry, I
And
pulled that down on you.
no. I just kind of brain farted. 35-28. And
Okay.
the whole thing is going to be just that every time we feel like we are losing momentum and we put our hands up in the air, we go, oh, here it is.
Yeah,
Here's the
something happened.
collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally start to see our guys believe that they can win, and they do. So this is the turnaround. This is the turnaround game for us as Husker fans. I'm calling it now. I don't care. I don't care what the record is for Colorado at the end of the year. They could go 4-8 again. I don't care. The doesn't matter. They are a cornerstone opponent for the season, no matter how their season ends up. That's my opinion.
I agree, because the slide for me, it was starting to show back in the late 90s. Once Frank Solich took over, there was some late game collapses in 99 and 2000 that Nebraska would barely pull out. But you could kind of see the seeds of things, especially against Colorado. Things starting to unravel a little bit. The team would get gassed at the end of games in Boulder, and they'd just let Colorado sneak back in the game. And then 2001 happened. And 62-36 later, Nebraska's really never been the same football team, in my opinion. So, yes, I could see that. And I think Moonbot kind of agrees with you. He's got a similar score of 35-24. My score's not quite the same. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker. I think it's going to go down to the fourth quarter, and I think it's a 6-point victory for Nebraska, because it goes to toward the end of the game. It's 21-21, and I know I said I was not going to mention Tristan Albano, but I think he does get us to 24-21 with 10 minutes left in the game. The defense makes a couple of big stands, and then he kicks the game icer at 27-21 with about 50 seconds left to go. We intercept Shedeur Sanders in the last minute of the game, and that's that. Nebraska finally wins 27-21. Patrick Joseph, who said he has never been on our stream before earlier, thank you, Patrick. We really appreciate you tuning in. He's kind of lined in my area. He thinks that 23-17, and he thinks it's going to be overtime. So it'll be 17-17, and we throw a touchdown pass to win the game. So after probably stopping them, I'm guessing, or stopping them on fourth down after we've taken a lead. So we'll see. Should be fun. Should be an absolute hoot. So there we go. Let's move on to the next game, which, gosh, it's so nice to start off the season 4 games in a row at home, all 4 of them being winnable. All 4 of them. There shouldn't be any reason Nebraska doesn't go on a road with a 4-0 record. So the third game, the last one in the out of conference, is UNI, Northern Iowa. I could not find any returning offense or production information on them because they aren't Division I don't believe. So I could not find them on that list. So that's also a night game. I believe a 6:30 kickoff, Saturday, September 14th in Lincoln. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think this is kind of that catapult game that gets us into conference play, or is this kind of one of those letdowns that happens after a big win over Colorado?
I think it's a pretty exciting game. I think we probably start off a little bit slow, because after that win against Colorado, our guys are going to feel a little bit high and mighty on themselves, and maybe they kind of like start off kind of slow. But then I think, even though the score I think is going to be very similar to UTEP, I think that it's going to be one of those games where it's kind of boring for the first quarter and a half, and then they just get loose and they just start to rip into the dudes. I think it's something like a 44-10 victory, Nebraska. Like I said, it's probably like 7-0 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and then it just they just start beating the brakes off of them, because I don't know, maybe our guys get a little bit of fire under their ass and realize, oh, we got to work for this. We can't just it's going to be a constant story of the teachable moments where they should have been learning in seasons past. They're going to learn, and they're going to find the grit that they need to push through the hard moments where you're like, oh, shoot, this FCS school is going to give us a real hard time. And if we're not careful, that Georgia Southern game is lingering in the back of my mind. I don't want something like that to happen again.
Yeah.
And then they just boop. So I'm thinking 44-10 Nebraska. It's kind of a slow start, makes us feel a little bit ucky, but then it just, by the end of it, we're all drunk and happy.
Well, Moonbot's drunk right there with you. 48-13 is what he picks.
Oh yeah, Moonbot. Let's go.
Yeah, buddy. He's feeling it too. He's feeling it too. I'm feeling fairly close. Maybe the scrubs get in on defense. Maybe we're on a third string defense. They get a garbage time touchdown to get up to 17 points, and Nebraska scores 35 before Yank and Raiola and most of the first team offense. Then we don't score again in the fourth quarter, something like that. That's kind of how I see it. 35-17. Defense gets some depth building reps for these younger kids who probably going to give up some points, but it's good for them. It's good for them to get in and get some live bullets coming at them. This might be the game that's the coming out party for, say, a Vincent Shavers Jr., who we talked about on the show, who I talked about with Justin Adams on the Nebraska football show at Voice of College Football. So that was kind of fun talking about the defense. Patrick is kind of there in the same neighborhood with me. He says 33-10. I'm really curious, guys, if you're kind of in the same neighborhood with us once we get to the Rhule-Aid picks, or are you just listening to what we have to say and then saying, screw it, I think I'll just go within a few points of what those guys say because, peer pressure.
Before we get to it, we get to the next one, Illinois, put your score predictions on Illinois in the comment section now. And
that way we know.
That way we know. That way we know you're not stealing our thunder here. Not splitting the baby.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. Moonbot makes a really good point right there. Our skill positions are just too good. Buying into their own hype will be the problem until Ohio State. Okay, Patrick says right out of the gate, 21-20 Illinois. This is at home, so that's interesting. But it was all we could do to beat them there, and who knows, maybe Bielema will eat a few less biscuits at breakfast and be able to coach a little better. But
I'm guessing you're feeling, Patrick, that we get a little bit too high on our own supply and underestimate our Big Ten opponent. And we just kind of lay a little bit of an egg. I mean, I could see it. I could see it.
You drop 44 or 35 points on a UNI, and then a real slobberknocker walks into town. It's pretty easy to see a letdown for sure. Moonbot's more into the 35-17 like I was for UNI against Illinois. So there you go. Illinois, why don't you talk about what you think is going to happen in this game, and I'll just throw your prediction slide up there when appropriate.
Well, they got middle of the road returning productivity. Brett Bielema's got a lot on his plate going into this year. And I don't think that they're going to be a slouch, but I just think that it's going to be kind of, I guess, honestly, I don't know what to think of Illinois this year. They're actually kind of unpredictable. They're kind of a dark horse, kind of I want to say a dark horse. That's way too generous. I just don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. What is Brett Bielema going to even be able to do with that kind of returning productivity? I mean, I think it was Moonbot alluded to this comment earlier. We didn't talk about it, but that, we've got a lot of skill positions that you can just fill in, and there's a lot more talent with younger guys than in years past. But I think that this game, it's going to be a very slow, low scoring Big Ten game. There's no other way around it. It's going to be kind of painful. It's going to be kind of weird. It's going to be ucky. We're going to feel a little bit more humbled and down to earth. And I say it's a Nebraska victory. I think Nebraska wins 21-13, but we're kind of on our heels going into the fourth quarter. It's probably we're in the lead 14-13. And it isn't until we're able to kind of seal it right there at the end and seal Illinois' fate. But I think it's Nebraska winning 21-13 in kind of an ugly fashion.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the boat with you, I believe. Moonbot makes an interesting point. They have a decent O-line, which is absolutely true. Bielema always has good offensive lines, so Nash Ty Robbenmacher, the two dudes in the middle, are going to definitely have their work cut out for them, holding things down, keep from getting the ball run on them a bunch. I'm kind of in that same vein with you. 21 points for Nebraska, but 17 for Illinois. And I have a feeling Illinois could be leading going into the fourth quarter, just like last year. I believe they were leading going into the fourth quarter. So, and it's a good prove-it game. It's a game where I think this is the game where Dylan Raiola kind of grows up and goes, oh, this is Big Ten football. I've really got to make some plays. And he makes some big ones at the end of the game to get us down there to score that last touchdown. And then the defense stands up to what is largely an ineffective offense for Illinois. So 21-17's.
I think it's also important to account for the fact that, yes, it's great that we don't have to start our season off against a Big Ten foe, but we still have to play against a Big Ten foe at some point, and this is that point.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, and it's still a tough slug. It just is.
It's gonna be tough. I don't think there's very many gimme wins in the Big Ten hardly anymore. It's kind of fairly even spread, and I think that you can. I mean, the analysts also think the same thing, considering that in the over-under category within the Big Ten, I think there's 6 or 7 teams with a 7.5 win, like 7.5 wins for their over-under of wins in the Big Ten. Like, that's half the field right there, like almost. And that, I mean, where else do you find that level of even competition? And then there's the top, and then there's the very sliver of the bottom, which we're going to get to next.
Yep, absolutely. Before we move on to the next game, which is Purdue, do us a huge favor if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube. Pop out of the live chat real quick. Leave us a like. Give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It just helps us out. It helps get this stream and this video out to more Husker fans who may want to view it. So next game is at Ross-Ade Stadium. It's the first road trip of the season. Nebraska goes to Purdue, where 2 years ago, Trey Palmer set a receiving record for Nebraska, I believe, for 217 yards, something to that effect. Purdue, as of May 13th, was ranked, has a returning offensive production of 63%, which is a national rank of 64th. Second-year coach in Brian Walters. I have a feeling the defense will be improved. I do, because he's an outstanding defensive coach. That's why Illinois' defenses were so good when Bielema first rolled into town. So this could be a slobber knocker. What are you thinking for this game? Moonbot says 31-28 right out of the gate, just so you know. For Nebraska, not for
I'm gonna detract from you this time, Moonbot. We've been pretty side by side. I think this is one of those games that Nebraska surprises themselves. We're gonna go into this game kind of pessimistic, like, okay, maybe Purdue is already, they've already got 3-4 wins under their belt. They're looking pretty good. I guess I should look at their schedule to make that drastic of a statement. Whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just stick with what I said. Maybe they've got 2 wins. Maybe they got 3 wins, something like that. And we're going to go into this game and we're going to think, oh, great, West Lafayette. It's always kind of a headache playing there. The stupid train sounds just give me a headache every single time. But I think that this is kind of one of those games where even our guys kind of surprise themselves with how comfortably they win this game. I think it's going to be a comfortable Nebraska victory, 31-10. And it looks solid. We actually look pretty solid. And this is when the whole national media just lose their collective minds about Nebraska. And they're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, they're 5-0. They beat Colorado. They've won 2 against 2 Big Ten opponents. They are just looking really good. They're going into a potential trap game against Rutgers. Look at Nebraska. Look at them, 5-0, and we're probably ranked. We're probably ranked. So I think it's a good game. I think it's a fun game where it's just electric. We're not really we're almost blinded by our own. We're blinded by our unexpected confidence in Nebraska. We're just like, there's not a moment in the game where we're like, oh, we're going to screw this up. This is where I think that happens psychologically.
This is where you feel like, oh, the other shoe's not going to drop tonight.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Patrick Joseph says 27-21. Scott Schrader says 31-14. And then, of course, negative Nancy Gregg says, I've got us losing to Purdue. I was between them or Illinois beating NU. It's the first away game and the first non-night game. So, well, except for UTEP, they're 2:30 in the afternoon, just so you remember, Greg. But Purdue's over under for wins, according to Patrick, is 4.5. So, and I believe Colorado's over under is 3, 2.5 or 3. So, not that matters, but just to stick it to the Buffs and their stupid Waterhead fans. Okay, first morning game. Greg has amended his comment. Thank you, Greg, for clearing that up. I've got us barely beating them 28-24. This is another one of those games where Nebraska is down late in the fourth quarter, and instead of, for lack of a better term, crapping the bed, Dylan Raiola actually is competent at quarterback and leads a game-winning drive in the last 7 minutes of the game, and the defense stands up and makes sure that Purdue doesn't do anything more. So 28-24 is how I see this one going. And yeah, I like where we're headed. We're headed to 5-0. We're looking at bowl eligibility if we win one more doggone game. Pretty cool. I think this team has the ability. I think they have the talent level, certainly, to be bowl eligible within the first 6 to 7 games. So let's take a look at the next one and see if we actually think that will be true, because the fighting Greg Schiano's come to town, and that dude knows how to run a defense. Rutgers seems to play very, very well on him. With him, it's his second time around with Rutgers. He's one of the only coaches to, if I remember correctly, to take them to a bowl game. So they've got a returning offensive production of 72%, which is a national rank of 13. So what do you think on this one for the game that's the day before my birthday? Do I get to have a happy birthday or an unhappy birthday?
You don't.
Shit.
This is where we kind of, like I said, we come off that Purdue win, and it's kind of like we finally get the feeling of like, oh, we can't screw this one up. And I think that Rutgers is the game that we find a way to screw up. It's the messiest game we'll see so far. It's going to be at Memorial Stadium. Greg Schiano is going to bring their A. Going to feel high and mighty. All we need is this one win. And Nebraska still, even though we've had a lot of nice things up to this point in the 2024 season, this is the first not nice thing we get to have. And we don't get to have a clean 6-0 start to our year. And we lose to Rutgers at home, 17-14 Rutgers. It's just a painful game. It's just, we couldn't get anything going on offense. Our defense, they did all they could, but Rutgers just managed to find, maybe a special teams explosive play. Maybe we screwed up on offense, gave them a short field. They were able to kick a field goal. It's just one of those games that just feels absolutely deflating, especially considering we've been trying to chase 6 wins forever. And this is where I find that we have the Nebraska moment. What is Nebraska going to do? This is the Nebraska thing to do. We're 5-0. All we need is one more win against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and we don't. It's just kind of like, okay, let's bring ourselves back down to earth here. This is going to kind of sting a little bit, but life goes on. So I think it's a 17-14 victory for the Scarlet Knights and Greg Schiano. And I mean, they've got an over-under of 7.5 wins as well. They're right in the same boat that we are. Yeah. I think Rutgers has a pretty good year. And I would not be surprised if they pull off this win in Memorial Stadium. So that's my thought.
Well, I'm not
Holy
sure they get that
jeez,
score.
Patrick.
Two
That
safeties, and Nebraska gets a couple of Alvano
that
field
is a
goals.
scoregami if I've ever seen it.
Or we went for two and we had one touchdown. Who knows? But he says 6-4 Nebraska. Moonbot says 27-17. Greg says Rutgers has Washington the week before, and they should be 3-1 coming into Lincoln. So, oh yeah. Anyway, mine, I'm with you. 3-point loss again for Nebraska. And this was before I got your numbers. I already saw this as a 3-point loss. This is the game, like you said, that Nebraska manages to shoot themselves in the foot when we didn't think that was going to happen again, because we got kind of over that hump with Colorado. We kind of go to West Lafayette. We figure things out there. We surprise ourselves with how good we are. And then we come back to earth when Rutgers comes to town. And Shiano smacks us in the mouth for 4 quarters with that defense. Raiola gets roughed up. Offensive line struggles. So, 20-17 Rutgers is kind of where I'm at on this one, too. So, 5-1. And then, of course, as we are good at doing as Husker fans, right? We're all going to sit there and go, okay, we're 5-1. Last year we were 5-3 or 5-4. We had 4 chances to get bowl eligible and we didn't. Is this going to is it going to happen again? Oh no. Well, let's talk about the next game to see if the oh no is going to be, definitely an oh no. 64% returning production for the Indiana Hoosiers. We will be going to Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana for this game. Their national rank on returning production is 58th in the country. So just off the top of your head, real quick, what do you think? Where does Nebraska end up in the win or the loss column on this one?
They win this game, and I think it's just simply because Indiana's going to have a new coach, right? Because they fired Tom Allen. Tom Allen. Tom Allen. I always have him and Tim Allen in my head at the same time, and I'm always afraid I'm mixing them up every time I say the names. Tom Allen's fired. They have a new coach. We're in our second year under Matt Rhule. Yes, we're going to be playing them at home in Bloomington, but I mean, we're just coming off of a salty loss against Rutgers. We need this. We need this win. Doesn't mean that we're going to get it, but I think that we win. I think that it's one of those, once again, it's kind of ugly, but maybe it's just one of those games where the football gods just didn't see favorably on us. Like, everything, we seem to do everything right, but somehow something just goes wrong, or the refs suck, or our guys have butterfingers and like perfectly placed passes are just being dropped, and maybe there's a fumble with, whatever. It's just going to be one of those weird games where we should have done better, but we didn't. But we still came away with the victory. We're 6-1. We're going bowling for the first time in half a decade. Like, I think we win.
It'll be first time in 8 years that we'll have gone bowling. Since 2016.
Yep.
So Moonbot's kind of in there with you, 38 or 33-13. Greg has 41-17. The Indiana over-under is 5.5 wins on the season. Thank you for that, Patrick. And Patrick also has his 32-23 Nebraska. I have us 21-17 because I think there's still a little bit of a hangover from the Rutgers game. I think there's some energy that Indiana will play with a new head coach. We don't know what their record's going to be coming into this game. They could be 0-6 or 0-5, but I don't know. 21-17 seems like a pretty good number for Nebraska. If we're chasing 3, which Nebraska averaged 18.0 points last year, I believe, per game. And if the whole mantra is chasing 3, I think dropping 21 on an Indiana team that could be good, could be bad. They've got a pretty decent coach, from what I understand, the new head coach. So 21-17, that's how I see it. I see a lot of turnovers on both sides, and Nebraska just turns it over one time less and capitalizes on the one that Indiana turns it over. So 21-17. the Fighting Huskers, if you will. Do they wear the all whites sometime this year on the road? That would be so cool. I love those
I love
freaking
the
all
all
white
white.
uniforms. I think they're the sweetest looking kit we got.
There's something so clean about it. I used to hate it growing up. Like I always thought that the all white looked like cheap, but I think it looks clean now. I think it just looks super neat. This would be a great game for it.
Mm-hmm. So next game, of course, is Ohio State, and their over-under is projected at 10.5 wins. Pretty safe bet. And Greg calls them the surrender whites. I get it, but it's better than the all reds, man. Do not wear the all reds, please. I won't go to that game. That'd be impossible for me to stand, because I think the only time we've ever worn the all reds, we got smoked by Oklahoma. So anyway, 45-13 OSU spanks us, according to Moonbot. Moonbot, you might not be too far off from either one of us on that one. What do you think on this game, Scott?
It's a loss. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. They're just better. They're a better team. They've got a coach that's been there for a while now. They're coached up really well. They're going to win 10, 11 games every single year. And Nebraska's not going to be that upset team, at least not this year, especially going to the Big House. Like, we're not doing that. I think it's almost hopefully, or not hopefully, but like it gives us a false sense of hope for the first quarter. I think it's kind of an even battle between the two for just the first quarter. And then Nebraska just chases them the rest of the way. And for every 2 scores that Ohio State scores, Nebraska scores 1. And it just looks like that for the rest of the game. I think it's safe to say, that Ohio State scores at least 38 points. I almost made it more, but then I was like, defense. Our defense is gonna. I hope that they. So 38-21, Ohio State, and it only looks good for maybe 1 quarter, and that's about it.
Yeah, Moonbot's got 45-13. We get spanked. Patrick's really down. He's like 36-3 Bucks. I think that defense is a little better than that, and I think our offense will be a little better than 3 points. 38-17, first elite team versus a true freshman quarterback. You're right, it's going to be rough, but at least that true freshman quarterback will have 6 wins under his belt and some pretty decent experience. So, which kind of reflects my score. I think Nebraska's a little closer than you are. I think we're within 10 points in this game, 38-28. Maybe we score a late touchdown to get to that 28 mark. But yeah, I think Ohio State definitely beats us by at least 10. So 38-28, that's where I'm at. I hate it. I hate saying it. I hate to say that we're 6-2 at this point, but I like saying that we're 6-2 because they can't take that 6th win away from us and get us out of a bowl game, right? I mean, we got to look at the bright side on this, and it will be fantastic experience for a guy like Dylan Raiola. And if we play well and we do score 28 points and we do hold that defense down, that offensive Ohio State's down to 38. Remember, they have no Kyle McCord. They're going with Will Howard, I believe, the Kansas State quarterback transferred there. And they have no Marvin Harrison Jr. Of course, they've got elite receivers everywhere, but a lot of that experience is gone. So it'll be interesting. If we can hold them to 38, I think that'll be really, really good for future recruiting. So moving on to the next game, I believe, will be UCLA, which Patrick's already ahead of us. He says UCLA's over under is 5.5 wins. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate that. Those are the details we should really do. I keep forgetting. I meant to look those things up, and I never did. I just kind of wanted to shoot from the hip tonight. And let's face it, I was building a golf sim in the garage, so I really wasn't thinking about some of these details. And my apologies to those of you watching, because it's painfully obvious at this point. Moonbot's got it at a 24-17 victory over UCLA. What do you think?
I think it's a close game. I think Nebraska ultimately wins. Welcome to the Big Ten, UCLA. I think that it's just going to be kind of a boring game. I don't know any. I mean, if it's a win, it's a win. Like, it's good, but I just have a feeling it's going to be kind of a boring game. There's nothing like it's one of those games where when you look back at it in the season recap, it just kind of falls to the wayside. But the part that'll be interesting and fun to look back at is be like, wow, we had an uninteresting victory. That's pleasant. I'll take that.
Yeah. An uninteresting victory would be better than a really gut punch loss, right?
Yes. And
like
I
the
think
last
that it's
time
I think that
UCLA
it's
was here.
I think that it's one of those games though that if we could look back and say, well, maybe there was something to note, is the fact that maybe we got lucky a few times. UCLA probably should have put up a few more points than they did, but they got a few things called back. They're the ones who look at that game that year and go, wow, we should have won that game, but we didn't because just everything didn't go our way. And so we just kind of skimp off like, oh, it was a great win. Don't know what happened, but we won.
Yeah.
And they're just fuming at them, they're foaming at the mouth. So, oopsie.
What did I do? Or
I
you
did that. I
Uh,
clicked the screen to try and make the
You're good.
slide
You're
thing
good.
go away.
I've got 24-20. I got it again, like you do, kind of a sloppy game, kind of all over the place after getting beat up by Ohio State. Maybe there's some guys that can't play, some important people like Isaiah Nayor. Some of those go-to receivers maybe are down for a week or two because of getting beat up. Maybe Dylan's out, and you've got to scrap something together with a dual threat of someone like Harburg coming in and running some Tim Tebow type packages, and then you've got Danny Kalen running the passing packages. I don't know, but 24-20 is kind of the way I see this one. Greg's got it at 28-24. Sloppy, lethargic team after getting smacked by OSU. I don't know. 28 seems to me like a team that's not quite what I would call lethargic, but maybe they're pretty sloppy if they're giving up 24 to a team that is no longer being coached by Chip Kelly and being coached by a former running back, because that's who the players wanted. Players are running the show, folks. So who knows? Foster has absolutely no experience head coach. So it'll be interesting. Patrick Joseph's got it 23-21 Nebraska. And Moonbot says, yep, little hungover. I think we all agree. Does that mean you're hungover now, Moonbot, or you plan to be hungover going into that game? Either way, I won't be hungover with you. So you can have all my hangovers. I've had enough of them. So moving on to flying all the way out to Los Angeles. This would be a game. You know what? I wouldn't mind going to see a USC game in California someday. I really wouldn't. I think it'd be a fun trip. I know it's a crap show around the stadium, but I've always kind of wanted to go there just to see all the celebrities down on the field and all the crazy. Then again, maybe they don't show up all that much anymore because it's not the Pete Carroll USC of old. But USC's over under, according to Patrick Joseph, is 7.5 wins. So no hangovers for Moonbot. Okay, my apologies if I misconstrued what you were saying. Ooh, Scott's going to be at the game. Good for you, dude. Hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it's a fun game. Unfortunately, I don't think it will be. Moonbot's got it at 38-24. What do you say?
I'd say it's a loss. It's just kind of, I think it's closer. I think that USC without Caleb Williams, I don't know, because I think they've got like a 4 or 5 star backup coming in and taking over. I just don't know if, like, I mean, they had the most talented offense last year that they possibly could have, and they what are they, 7-5, 8-4, something like that. It's just, I just have a hard time seeing them being insanely productive offensively, especially against our defense, which I'm hoping is the real deal this year. I'm betting on it. I would bet money that our offense is a top 25 defense. And I just don't see USC playing against the Big Ten in a top 25 offensive productivity type of look. Like I just have a hard time believing it. But I just don't see Nebraska necessarily winning this game. I think that they lose. It's just, I can't look at this game and go, oh yeah, we're gonna totally just win against these Pac-12 opponents right out of the gate. I just don't see it. So I think Nebraska loses in close fashion. 27-24, USC comes out on top, unfortunately.
Already, so you actually see both teams playing a little defense, which is not the MO for USC, at least under Lincoln Riley. I know his former defensive coordinator is no longer there, so maybe there's some improvement on defense this year. Patrick Joseph doesn't think anybody's playing defense that night, as it's a 55-49 USC win, so it'll be a shootout. That'll be a heck of a lot of fun to watch, but certainly not the outcome. Of course, Scotch said he's going to be there. Raiola shines, according to Patrick, but the black shirts are a little banged up. I could see that too, Patrick. I agree. Let's see here. Greg is calling it. This is a bye week before USC. He's got it at 35-31 Nebraska. Me, I have this as my next loss on the schedule. 28-24 USC, kind of like you, Scott. I think it's kind of ugly, sloppy. Both teams turn the ball over quite a bit. Defenses don't play especially great, but they don't play awful. It's just USC's offense is just that much better at this point in the season. And, Nebraska can never really catch their footing on offense. So 28-24. The next game is Memorial Stadium in Lincoln against Wisconsin Badgers. We don't need no stinking Badgers. I'm never not going to say that when talking about Wisconsin. Their returning offensive production is 68%, which is a national rank of 30. And Patrick says their over-under is 6.5 wins on the season, which sounds about right. Moonbot's got it at 28-24 Wisconsin. What say you, son?
Yeah, I say Nebraska loses this one. It's a close loss. I'm going 24-21 Wisconsin. It's honestly a really exciting game, kind of like last year, where it just is fun. It's electric. Just gets us all hyped up and everything. We feel like we're going to win it, and then in the last second, they just kind of figure out a way to squeak out the win. It's heartbreaking, but when I was going down the line in this list with a realistic mindset, it's like, well, we're bound to lose some games that I think we can win. Because I really looking at the schedule, Ohio State is the only team where I just don't see any path to victory there, aside from them just taking every gun on planet Earth and proceeding to blow their entire legs off with them. That's the only way this happens. And so I kind of had to pick, like, okay, where in the season strategically, not strategic, like if I'm thinking psychologically in a strategical manner, like where would we be most likely to lose games? And I just see it being, if it's going to be Wisconsin. We're going to lose against them. And it's not going to be fun. When it's all said and done, but it'll be fun all the way up until the clock hits 0. So, 24-21 Wisconsin. Pain, suffering.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. I think I'm different though. I think mine, oh, come on now. Why won't the slide move? I've got it at 17-14 Nebraska. It's one of those close ones. It's one of those 14-14 games, kind of like we had. Kind of one of those games like we had 2 years ago in Memorial, where we were leading almost the entire game until right at the end, the defense just gave up a big play. The difference is this time their defense gives up a big play. And yes, Moonbot, yes, Tristan Alvano wins a game for us with 2 minutes or less left on the clock. The defense makes one more stand, and Nebraska squeaks out their first win in the regular season over Wisconsin since 2012, 17-14. So, damn, when are we ever going to beat Wisconsin's Scott Schrader? I love that. 30-17, according to Greg. Hangover from USC and his upset that he had. Avoid them as our best option. God, Moonbot, I love you. I do. I absolutely. Oh, he thinks we're going to win the game because it'll be the replacement kicker. Who's that? That's what I want to know. Who's the replacement kicker? So I think it's a walk-on. But anyway, this is fun. I love having all of you guys doing this with us because it certainly makes it a lot more fun for us to see if other people are kind of feeling the same pulse we are going throughout this season. And now we end with the last. Wow, my I might have kicked the thing out on my Stream Deck. It just decided to no longer work. So
cool.
Yeah, isn't that joyous? So as of May 13th, they had 79% returning offensive production for the Iowa Hawkeyes, which gives them a national ranking of number 9. So 79% of the shittiest Division I offense production has returned. Yay. And I mean, they've got a new offensive coordinator, but still. Wow, all that production's back. Why didn't it leave? I would wonder, because nobody wanted it, maybe. Anyway, what do you think's going to happen on this game, Scott? There we go. My Stream Deck's working now.
Well, I think we win. I think it's a copy paste of the score from the previous week against Wisconsin, except for this time we are on the favorable side of a 24-21 victory. It's just a perfect way to cap off a year. We go 8-4. We win against our huge Big Ten rivals that have been our rivals since we entered the Big Ten. It's going to be a night game. It's going to be electric at Kinnick, and we just completely shut them down. And we're able to wave goodbye to the Iowa Hawkeyes and just cap off our season. 8 wins. Oh, dude, it's just going to feel great. It's going to feel awesome. I don't see any way that we don't lose this game. And people are going to clip that and be like, "Hey, look at that guy. LOL, look at that." No, I'm just saying, guys, like it's just going to be what it is. Iowa sucks. Iowa's terrible. I'm never going to not pick that Nebraska wins against Iowa, except for that one year that I didn't, and we did win against them.
Won. So you should have, you screwed. Okay. It's okay.
You're welcome, guys.
Moonbot says 21-20 Iowa. Patrick says that Iowa's over-under is 7.5 wins, just like ours. Nebraska wins 20-5, according to Greg, because their OC isn't going to be much better. I kind of agree with you there. 20-10 Iowa, according to Patrick Joseph, and because the night game in Iowa is going to be much harder. I don't know about that. I just think it just could be a tough game, really tough game. Scott Schrader says 14-10 Nebraska, and I say 21-20 Iowa. I know the ray of sunshine is now gone, guys. I apologize for that. I just don't. Like somebody said, a night game in Iowa, it's going to be cold. It'll be frozen. The first team to complete 10 passes to the right people in the right uniforms is probably going to win this thing. And I'm just not sure we're going to be healthy at quarterback going into this one. Or running back. I have a feeling we could be relying on some scrubs a lot. Teddy Prohaska has yet to make it through an entire season. Is he going to make it through the season? That's a big guy you need in that offensive line. So 21-20. Looking at it from a realistic point of view, that's where I have this game.
Fair. So you're thinking we're 7-5, and
7-5.
I'm thinking we're 8-4.
Yep, 7-5. I don't know why I took the slide off. I just hit the wrong button. You've got 8-4. You have the offense averaging 27 points per game. Whereas they averaged 18 in 2023. If we average 27 points per game, according to 2023's rankings, that would be 5th in the Big Ten and 67th in the NCAA. And then you have the defense at 18.6 points per game, 18.3 in 2023. Big Ten ranking would be 5th in the NCAA. That would be the 15th ranked defense. That is definitely worthwhile. Yeah, Scott, I am.
Yes, he says, Scott Schrader says, y'all optimistic on Iowa's OC will score 20 points. I'm not. I'm not. I think that their defense scores because, like, I agree with my dad. I think that there's a very high likelihood that Dylan Raiola goes into the game unhealthy or leaves the game unhealthy, just because it's cold, it's at night, it's in Kinnick. Iowa's just going to be physically Iowa. They're going to be Iowa, and I would not be surprised if our offense gives away a few, at least directly attributable to scores that Iowa, in theory, would have not even come close to having had we not given them the ball frivolously. So yeah, no, I'm not confident. If Iowa does marginally better in offense, then there's still like a top 100 offense team. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, I have our offense in the realistic status, 24.1 points per game, as opposed to 18 last year. Of course, that'd be 6th in the Big Ten, and then 86th in the NCAA. Still good enough for 7-5, and 20.9 points per game on defense.
So
Big
you think
Ten, that would be the 7th ranked, and then the 26th ranked defense in the country. So I think people know what we can do on defense, and I think that the Big Ten will be a little bit more ready for what White's going to throw out there. So that's why that rank drops a little bit.
That's what I was curious about, because I was sitting here thinking that our defense basically looks the same, but I think they actually look a little bit better just because, like you said, the Big Ten has kind of shifted. We're going to have a different dynamic now with two playing, at least this season, against two Pac-12 opponents. Now Big Ten, obviously. But yeah, I think even on my realistic side of things, like I said, like, yes, I'm predicting that our offense is 9 points better per game on average, which is insanely good. Like, that's a huge jump. And I know that kind of looks a little bit suspicious. But my reasoning for that is literally we are 7 to 10 points better, or 7 to 10 points better last year if we just have a game manager, like a quarterback that doesn't turn over the ball and an offense that is just completely in over their heads. Like, I think that's the difference between 7 to 14 points every single game. So yeah, I have no problem making the bold prediction that we do 9 points better. Cause really, like if we're comparing to stats from last year, obviously kind of a reach, but that puts us at 5th. I mean, that's great. I'll take 5th, but in all reality, our offense is loaded with talent. They really are. We can't
get that talent used? Can that talent get the ball in their hands in a way that they can make something happen? Yeah. I mean, Moonbot makes an interesting point. I'm not exactly sure if you meant to use that particular word there, Moonbot, because that would be a weird thing for Iowa to want to do to us. But I think he meant shuts. and Dylan will be healthy, just overmatched. That might be a good point. I just don't know. I don't know how healthy we're going to be going into that game.
Patrick, we don't know. What is a quarterback that doesn't turn over the ball? I don't know, man.
We're hoping we find one.
I cannot, for the life of me, I don't know what age group or what generation you are in, Patrick. If I'm looking very closely, you could be in your 20s or your 50s. It's very hard to tell. I don't know of a quarterback that in my lifetime, other than like Joe Gans.
Oh, there, we outed him.
34. Okay.
It's between you and me.
I was in the middle. Joe Gans is probably one of the only quarterbacks that I can remember that was not just an inconsistent turnover machine. I mean, I mean, Tommy Armstrong was pretty decent. But yeah, I can't, and I don't think in my lifetime I've ever witnessed like a true vanilla milquetoast game manager quarterback that doesn't really make mistakes but doesn't really razzle dazzle, like I mean, you'd have to go back to the Callahan era in order to find that. But yeah, I mean, I agree, Patrick. Like Joe Gans is like, he's the GOAT, dude. Like I wasn't that old when I watched him, but I remember being very, very happy with the way he played.
Well, that gives you, we're an hour, 10 minutes in, so that gives you our realistic picks. We've still got our Kool-Aid picks or Rhule-Aid picks to go.
We'll obviously just kind of cruise through those. We kind of have our banter.
Yeah, we already have an idea of where we're at. But before we get to that, here's the big announcement, something that I want.
Big announcement.
We talked about golf a little bit at the beginning of the show, that we want to see my new grandson, Scott's firstborn son, to be good at golf someday. And we're not very good at golf, but we like to play. And one of the things that Scott and I both have decided we'd like to do is we'd like to give back a little bit to the community. I'm basically retired, so I have a lot of time on my hands, and I am working on organizing this. So save the date. It's for the bye week on October 12th, 2024, the first annual Husker Podcast Charity Golf Scramble. We've invited a bunch of different Husker podcasts to join us. In fact, Husker Army has been promoting this for us as well, starting their next podcast tomorrow. They'll be talking about this. It's at Woodland Hills Golf Course, and it's to provide continuing aid to the victims of the April 26 tornadoes in Nebraska and Iowa. All proceeds will be donated to the Salvation Army. The cost is $500 per team. Sounds expensive. It's $125 a player, and it is registration by team only, and that includes 18 holes of golf, a cart, and free practice range balls, plus some other benefits to be announced soon. I'm working on finding a sponsor to provide food, which will be included in that cost, as well as probably some flag prizes and things like that. So online registration will be available soon. I will let everybody know that as soon as I do. And hole sponsorships are also available. If you'd like to sponsor a hole, please send me an email at genredpod@gmail.com. And I will give you some of those details. That will be available to register for online as well. Sponsor a hole, you get a sign advertising your business or your podcast or whatever it is you'd like to advertise will be put up on a sign on the hole, so long as it's within reason. Nothing indecent, please. We don't need any Xerox copies of your butt sitting on a photo of the hole. So now that I've given you that idea, I apologize. But there you go. That's the big announcement. Saturday, October 12th. The first annual Husker Podcast Charity Golf Scramble at Woodland Hills. It's a fun course. I've played it a couple times. I've also drowned quite a few golf balls there, so bring plenty of them with you. I believe there'll be a free sleeve of balls that will come with that registration fee. So there you go. Moonbot, it's all good. It's all good, but I get it. But yeah, for certain, let everybody know. And again, I don't have an online link yet, but I will soon. And I'm going to make it available to all the podcasts as well as podcast listeners first. And then once we figure out where we're at for numbers, then Woodland Hills will make it available to their email list as well to see if we can't get up to, we're trying to get up to 144. If we get up to 144, then we'll have 2 or 4 full flights of golfers going through and playing in a charity scramble. It's a lot of fun. 2 p.m. I believe it's a 2 p.m. 2 p.m. shotgun start.
I think he said 2:30 shotgun start.
Yeah, something like that. So I have no idea, Patrick, if Sip will play or not. But I will certainly make it available to anybody and everybody. Hurrdat Sports has said they will jump on and sponsor a hole for us as well as promote the event too. So there's a good shot. We'll see if Sip will play. Anyway, maybe if you have Apple Pizzy sponsor the food, Sip will play. Or that Mexican joint he likes to go to and get his margaritas. So anyway, thanks for letting me take a few moments to talk about that. Let me talk about this again real quick. Please take a moment, pop out of the live chat on YouTube and give this video a like, get it out there to more folks to watch. El Toro, that's it, Patrick.
Yes,
you are right. You are on the jump tonight, dude. That's really cool. That picture of you that's on your profile, are you on the field? I'm guessing you're on the field on Memorial Stadium turf.
Snazzy tie.
So looks pretty cool. That spot that you're standing looks pretty cool. Anyway, let's move on to our Kool-Aid picks. We'll just run through these fairly quick.
Picks.
No real analysis necessary. It's just it's an interesting thing that Scott and I have come up with for this. This is pretty cool. So let's see. Oh, come on.
The Temple practice field. So was that an older pick by chance, Patrick? Was that an older pick or is that recent? Because now I'm curious. I'm curious with the whole rule lore of Temple.
Trader Dollaritas at Applebee's. Oh, I had a few of those in my day. Oh my goodness.
I was gonna say you looked like you were in your 20s. I was gonna say you looked like you were in your 20s, but the suit kind of adds on some maturity, so I wasn't 100% sure.
So would that have been about the time, Patrick, that Rhule was head coach at Temple, or would that have been after he had already gone? So anyway.
It's okay. I still look like a baby.
Yep, UTEP,
even with a mustache.
Right out of the gate with UTEP, you've basically got the same score, right?
Yeah, I'll just say it right out of the gate. I didn't change any of our win scores just because it's at that point, it's like wins, losses doesn't really matter. I don't think it really. I just didn't want to do the analysis of oh, if we win this, what's the change of the outcome of the next week? I could have done that, but I felt like I'd spice it up this year and actually just assume that relatively speaking, nothing changes by us winning games that we lost in my realistic pick. So it's a win for Nebraska, 41-13, still same score.
Yeah, I think mine's basically the same too, 35-10. I think maybe it's 7 points less on defense, about the same on offense. So 105-6 is a Kool-Aid pick. Now, he originally said 105-6 is a molarity. What in the blazes is a molarity, Greg? And are you voice texting right now? That's what I want to know. So next game is Colorado. Wow. So there we go. That's both of our picks. 35-28 for you, 35-24 for me. Instead of a close win, I have this as a more dynamic win for Nebraska. DR has a little bit better game. And then you and I, 44-10. My Rhule-Aid pick is 42-17. Basically the same. It's a random word my phone decided should be in there.
Yeah, because I looked up molarity and it's it's not even a word.
Okay, we'll go with that, Greg. 98-0 he has for, I believe, this one. Wait a minute. Did I not mention? Wow.
Yes, it skipped ahead.
Wow.
Or no, it was in the wrong order.
Okay, no. I thought I had put 62-36 for the Colorado score, but I remember now I changed my mind. I didn't want to throw that out in the universe that we would actually match the score that they stole our soul with. So
I see.
42-17 for you and I. You've got 21-13 with Illinois. I have a little more. I'm up in that 28 that we score a few more points against Illinois in my Rhule-Aid pick. 31-10 for Purdue for you, and I've got 28-24, basically the same. Part of me thinks I may have screwed some of these scores up, but it's a 17-14 Nebraska instead of 17-14 Rutgers, right? Is that what you got? Yeah.
Yep.
Me, I've got 21-20 Nebraska. So instead of 20-17, I think is what I had on the first one. So 28-13 over Indiana for you, 28-17 over Indiana for me. 42-25 Ohio State, a little bit better. We score a few more points than you had in the first game, but they also scored 4 more than they did in the first pick.
I was going to say, I don't know if that was correct. Let me check. Yeah, yes. Okay, it is correct.
Yeah, 38-21 or something on the first one. So
that's what it was. On my slide, the number is slightly different. I was like 42-25.
Whoops, I screwed up.
Yes, so even if I'm drinking the Rhule-Aid, we are not beating Ohio State.
Yeah, me neither. I've got 38.
I think it's closer. I think it gives us a really, really false sense of hope. But
Greg says UNI, the back to the UNI game forfeits at halftime, 77-0. Moonbot says that was an Arthur Spooner scramble word, maybe. Molarity.
Molarity.
Reverse molarity. That's where your back teeth turn around or something. I don't know. But you've still got 21-10 to beat UCLA. I've got 27-20. I think that's basically the same score, maybe a couple points more for Nebraska. 27-24, you've got the upset win over USC for Nebraska. I've got 28-27, still got USC winning. So that's where we vary a little bit there. 24-21 Nebraska to beat Wisconsin at home. And I've got Nebraska beating them 24-14 at home. And then the last one, the big one, 24-9. You don't let Iowa score any more than 3 field goals, which is great because that's what they're good at is special teams.
Yes, I want them to think they're going to do stuff on offense, but they never do. They just get close enough to kick their balls, and that's about it.
Exactly. And I've got it 27-20, Nebraska beating Iowa at night in Kinnick Stadium. And Greg says we need more sugar in our Kool-Aid. Greg, the first time I picked the scores for Kool-Aid, I looked at the offensive points per game and I had it at like 37. I'm like, that's not even for a Kool-Aid pick, that's not realistic. So I decided to kind of go back and look them over again. And there you go. Those are the stats. We both came up with 29 points per game for the offense and 17 points per game for the defense for you and 20.7 points per game for the defense for me. So similar number, but just I have 3 more wins and you have 2 more or 3 more wins.
I have 3 more wins.
So
and because I think Kool-Aid we go 11-1. Mm-hmm. And there is a very good chance that with that kind of record, if we are really truly chugging the Kool-Aid and reality just manifests for us Husker fans, we're going to the Big Ten championship. And with a rematch against Ohio State.
Very good chance.
If Ohio State wins against Michigan, and I mean, there's no more head-to-head opponents at that point that I think stand up to reason. I mean, Penn State could do something this year, maybe. But yeah,
I mean,
there's Oregon, one more.
There's a good
Oregon.
chance we could play Oregon too, because they're going to go to Ohio State. So, and I have a feeling that might be Ohio State's first loss.
Yeah, it could.
So it might be their only loss. So 11-1
could be a fun year.
Or 10-2 could possibly get you in the Big Ten championship game. But I think both of those records, whether we go to the Big Ten championship game or not, have us possibly hosting, if not going to a playoff game, hosting a college football playoff game in Memorial Stadium in December. How cool is this? That would be cool.
Against an SEC team, probably.
Patrick,
so dude, like it cold.
This is so cool. Glad that you happened upon us on Twitter. We really hope you subscribe. We hope you just hang out and enjoy the show. Enjoy what we do. We really enjoy doing this.
Well, I will tell you,
hip guys. So
I will tell you, Patrick, that you just asked, can we do a Rhule-Aid pessimistic prediction? I will have you know, as a new listener to the pod, that I am normally an incredibly pessimistic and downtrodden type of person. So this is really outside of my element. My realistic prediction going 8-4 is very out of character for me, and especially my Kool-Aid prediction of 11-1. Like, just so you know, last year it was the last few years I have just not been. And this is what's crazy is my pessimistic prediction is I still think realistically in the pessimistic realm of things. Because if I really wanted to drink the Kool-Aid, I'd say 12-0, win the Big Ten championship. We're national champions. Ta-da. If I'm thinking like realistically in a pessimistic way, I think we're still 6-6. Looking at the schedule, UTEP win, Colorado. Let's just say we lose. Let's say we lose against Colorado. Boo. Northern Illinois. I still think we beat Illinois. Maybe we then lose against Rutgers. Then we then lose against Purdue. We win against Rutgers. We win against Indiana. We lose against Ohio State. And then in those last 4 games, we managed to, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Out of those last 4 games, we managed to pick off 2 more. We win against UCLA and we win against Iowa. I mean, 6-6. And I could go through and switch those up and make them, shake them up a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
And it could all be the same result just because
Greg's got it.
all that stuff.
Pessimistic prediction, second best 3-9 team ever.
Second best 3-9 team.
Well, that's because 2021, the year we started this podcast, was the best 3-9 team ever.
Oh
So
yeah, that was a miserable time to start a podcast. I'll tell you what, buddy.
Worst way to try to build an audience.
Dude.
Another great show. Thank you, Moonbot. We appreciate it.
We're fighting over comments, right?
Yep.
We're fighting
Yes,
over
we
who
are.
to display which comment.
Sorry, I should let you do that because you do that very, very well. It was nice to have other scores to throw up there so that we can kind of intersperse them in with ours. The guys, the participation tonight has been absolutely outstanding. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing. I've got one more slide, and this is important. So please tune in next week, 2 weeks from now. You won't want to miss this one.
That's gonna be
Jared
good.
Tomich, Grant Wistrom from the 90s national championship teams will be on stream. They won't be in studio, unfortunately, but they will be joining us from their homes, and we'll be talking about championship mindset and reliving some of those great memories that I have, as well as talking about what they think of this Tony White defense and where it could ultimately lead this Husker team going into 2024. So do not miss next June 23rd show. It's going to be absolutely worth it. And of course, participate in the chat just like you've done tonight, guys, and ask questions that we can ask the guys. And I bet they would really appreciate that. So Husker Nation, there is nobody better than you guys. This has been an absolute blast. This is one of my favorite shows to do, aside from the one we'll do in August, hopefully with the Cuzcast, where we pick the over-under game for 2024. That's always fun. So, yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to talk to Grant and Jared. And until next time, you have any other closing thoughts, Scott, about anything at all?
Oh, just if you can hear anything going right now, my wife is washing the baby. The baby doesn't know how to keep milk in his mouth. It just goes everywhere. It's kind of funny. So he needs a bath. And yes, thank you, Patrick, with the wishing me luck with the baby. I'm very blessed and very fortunate, and hopefully I'll be a good dad. So I'm just really excited to meet a couple of these Husker greats. I mean, I grew up watching VHS tapes of all of the golden years of Nebraska football, just idolizing everybody and everything. Because like I was born in '94, so I really didn't get to witness a lot of the great years of Nebraska football. So I'm just really excited to get a slice of that piece of history and just kind of dig into it a little bit, because I loved when we had our conversation with oh God, I'm gonna blank on names here. The Day by Day documentary. First we interviewed Justin LaPera,
and then Josh Davis and his dad Tony.
Yes. And those were just directors and contributing factors to the documentary, and just picking their brains apart just gives me so much joy. And now it's finally coming to the point where we're kind of getting lined up with hopefully more in the future, but especially now. I mean, you can't, like, Grant Wistrom, that is like creme de la creme. Like,
thank you, Josh Davis.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Thank you so much for hooking us up with these conversations. I just can't wait to pick their brains apart as a younger generation, and just ask them, like, what exactly made you tick? Like that you can tell me, because there's some things that I'm sure they'll take to their grave. But I just like picking their brains apart, so I'm very excited for that conversation. And it's been, like my dad said, super, super excited to see a lot of new names and new faces in the comments. Scott and Patrick in particular. Shout out to Greg once again. Shout out to Moonbot once again. You guys are awesome. It's been a super fun show. This way too early season prediction is probably one of my more favorite episodes we do every single year, just because, I mean, this is the best part of being a Husker fan. Is looking into the ether and trying to make sense of what could be our future. And I think our future is bright, no matter what. Even if we go 6-6, and that's my Drunk-As-Hell-On-Rhule-Aid, as Patrick put it. I think we're I think we're gonna do better. I think things are gonna look better. And yeah.
I can't wait. That 2 weeks is going to be fun. More than anything, I'm just jazzed over the season. I was just talking kind of in the chat with Patrick. He lives in the Philly area. I will be in the Lancaster, PA area this next week for a family reunion. And one of my cousins and her husband is flying out in August. They will be here the week of the first game. We're going to get tickets. So they're going to get to experience the Nebraska phenomenon in person for the first time ever. And they're kind of Penn State fans, but I'm thinking we can convert them.
It'll be a damn phenomenon.
It'll be something else. I can't wait. So anyway, on behalf of Scott and myself, we really thank you all again for watching. Don't forget, June 23rd, please check out that show. It's going to be an absolute hoot. And he's Scott. I'm Ken. Together we're Generation Red, and we are here to chronicle Nebraska's obvious return to greatness sooner rather than later, one podcast at a time, because there's no place like Nebraska.
And Iowa's corn sucks more than Pac-12's ability to retain good football teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're the Pac-4 now, or 2, something like that. Anyway, go Big Red, folks. We will see you
Go Big Red
next time, June 23rd. Don't miss out, 7:30 p.m. Sunday night. See you then.